Well, hi there. Today I want to talk about one of the ways, one of the many possible ways of using ChatGPT. And on this example, I decided to use for an Excel VBA, a little Excel VBA application. So it's one of those kind of little test applications that I created, and you can see I've been kind of fooling with that. So on this left hand side you can see several different options, different things I tried. I've been basically playing with that to see, kind of explore the possibilities of what ChatGPT can do for me or what I can do with that. I mean, really, it's an amazing, beyond amazing application or tool. It's given me huge leverage as far as trying to find out how to get certain things done. I think the trick here is to be able to very clearly specify the question, and with that, it's most likely you're going to get some solution. So I'm going to pick one of those that I did, and I was going to pick this one, VBA dynamic print range. So the question, as you see on top, it says write Excel VBA to create a print range for dynamically changing ranges. And then here's the answer. It says the following VBA codes can be used to create a print range for a dynamic range in Excel. This is the answer from ChatGPT, and as you see, it generated the code for me, where I can copy and use in my Excel file. And it's just finishing the work by saying this code starts by finding the last row and column in the data. It then defines the print range as a range of data from this first cell to the last cell of data. Finally, the print area is set to the print range defined. So it's basically completing what it says. So I'm going to go ahead and actually bring up the text file, Excel file that I was using this as an example. So here is my my sample range. As you see, this is A to N. How many rows? 10 rows. So now, first off, I want to show you the print range here as it is now. So you can see that it is highlighting, it's kind of creating the borders for the print range. And let's say, there's a new data set is coming up, and then the new data set is that much more. Now this is my new range, and I want to print this, for instance. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and print on that. I'm going to click on that one. Now the print range automatically defined by the amount of data, by the amount of rows and columns in their new range. So basically, if I was doing this, as you know, manually, you got to go manually to print range, and you have to basically identify the the print range yourself. And the actual advantage of that is imagine that this is kind of repeating frequently on several different tabs or even work files, workbooks, and so many different dynamically changing ranges are coming into play, and they all have to be created as print ranges. For instance, let's say you're printing reports. So that's obviously, this kind of capabilities would help a lot. But the trick here is not the matter of capabilities of VBA. I don't mean to really discuss that. What I meant to discuss was, I want to get back to the macro here. Here's the macro or VBA code that ChatGPT has created for me. So the reason why I can say very comfortably that this is really an awesome, great capabilities is because typically when I do, let's say, Excel work, Excel VBA type of work, and I'm trying to add some kind of a automation, like I'm right now talking about. This is kind of automation, right? I mean, you're clicking on a button, it's doing something for you instead of doing this manually. And try to find out how it can be done. It's a matter of searching on Google and to find the right function. Okay, how do you set that? How do you set the dimensions, and then what kind of function you use? How is it written? All those things, all these details. It's a matter of finding some example, something close to it, and then pick maybe a couple examples or 3 or 4 examples, tweak them, try them. It might take, depending on the level of complexity you're working with, might take a lot of time. But again, going back to I'm going to close this one here, the VBA module. Okay, going back to again ChatGPT. Well, there you go. I just basically I know what exactly I want. This is what I'm trying to do, right? Create a dynamically changing range, and I can basically go ahead and tweak the code, this code, and then depending on my number of columns and number of rows, I can basically modify it. So I asked that question, and it just created that answer for me. And you just saw it. I just showed it to you. This is how it is working. There is another example I want to share with you, and that is comparing two excuse me, comparing two data sets. So I'm going to open that Excel file, and then let me also find that one here, the compare data sets. There you go, the top one. This is the most recent one I've been working on. So what I created here is I asked again the question to ChatGPT saying compare data sets on two Excel tabs via VBA. I also did the same thing, same kind of comparison on the same worksheet, which is not part of this question, but you'll see that. So again, it's doing the same thing. Basically, it's saying it's giving me 6 steps, and it's giving me step-by-step instructions on how to do this. And then down below here, it is giving me the VBA code. So what I did here, I'm going to bring this up here. Here's my data set. It's just a kind of simple data set I just created just for the sake of running this, kind of seeing how it works. So in this whole area, A to R, A1 through R19, that's my range. And I'm saying, go ahead and compare this. This is from the previous runs, the red signs, red highlight state. So hold on a second. I just want to get rid of these. I can actually change the macro to eliminate those. Anyway, right now I want to compare it to this one. See, if you notice here, everything is number 1 here. Every single cell within this range has the value number 1. And if you look at the sheet 2, tab number sheet 2, I'm sorry, is you see there some of these are different. Like here, there is a kind of a row here, all different numbers, not different than 1. Here's 4, here's 8, here's 2. Those are all different. So what I want to do is comparing those two data sets, show me the ones that are different on the other tab. So I'm going to click on this one, compare data between tabs. See, if you notice, all these, if you go the other side, see, these are the ones that are differing from sheet 1. So you can clearly see which one are those. And I'm going to reset the range, basically, going back and resetting to 0 settings. And then I'm going to do this, the same thing, compare this data set, again, A1 to R19, to this data set, which is highlighted with yellow, peachy color. So I'm going to click on this one. There you go. These are the different ones from this area. Because as you notice here in this area, see number 6, number 8, number 9, number 9 here, all these are different, right? So basically that's what it does. So I just asked ChatGPT to see how I can possibly using a VBA, and I want to show this one especially, going back to macro and kind of analyze it. So I'm going to edit mode, and there you go. So let's look at it. Let's take a look at it. What it does is it's creating a sub procedure called compare. Actually, I just created this name, compare data sets from 2 tabs. It can be any name, right? I just put up the name that I can work with. It basically kind of makes sense to me for this particular problem, right? And here's all these comments in green and all the rest of the code. ChatGPT created that. So it says declare the variables as it's always done, and there are 3 variables. WS1 and WS2, worksheet 1, worksheet 2 as worksheet, range 1 and range 2 as range, cell 1 and cell 2 as range again. And then now it's assigning the worksheets to the variables. Sheet 1 and sheet 2, those are the worksheets I have. Basically it's assigning them with this macro to those worksheets. which are just created as variables. And now assigning the data ranges to the variables. And ranges are range 1 and range 2. And what are those ranges? A1 and R19, and the same range on the worksheet 2. So worksheet 1 and worksheet 2 has two exact same ranges, right? And it's basically explaining here, it's looping through each row in the first data set for each cell. And there was an issue when I was working with this code. It was kind of funny. It did work, it didn't work. Okay, I was having problems with that. So basically, this has been modified. This is the section that actually ChatGPT created, and it was working, it was just fine. And then for some reason, it started having problems. I'm not blaming ChatGPT for that one. Yeah, sometimes it happens. So then I kind of modified that, and I added this section here. So basically, instead of doing this, as you see this whole green area, that means it's not running, but kept it there. And then created a new variable called cell as range. For each cell in range 1, it says basically for each range, for each cell in the range 1 on the sheet 1, look at its corresponding cell on the sheet 2. So that's what it does. This code is doing exactly what I said. So I'm going to close this and get back to this, and again do this again, compare. There you go. These are the ones going to sheet 2 now. These are the ones differing from sheet 1. Both sheets, both tabs, I can see easily within the data range which ones are the different ones. So that actually, that's another example that I just did, seeing how I can utilize the power of ChatGPT. I'm gonna say this, okay. So close that. So there is another example I'm gonna mention, and that is, let's see. There was a hold on a second. I want to find that there was one file copy. I think it was. There you go. See, Excel VBA. I said Excel Python file copy. Alright, using VBA, open Excel, find a directory and copy and content from a tab on it, and then paste. Okay. For some reason, it was giving me this kind of warning against their policy. I don't understand the significance of it. I don't know why I get that, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to lose time on that one. So here's an example. It says, again, the same thing. It's creating the file, and then I'm going to go ahead and open that Excel file, the file copy one, and bring that up, copy. Was it this one? Let's open that up. See, I'm going to delete these two columns. So I'm going to create a file list. So basically what it's doing is this. It's looking at the directory that I selected, and then in that directory, see how many? There are 186. 186 minus the title field, 185. There are 185 files within that directory in this path. So it's basically what it says is when I click on this button, the same thing. Let's go to assign macro. So it created this VBA code for me. What it does is it created 4 variables. Dim. Those are 4 dimensions, 4 variables. And then here's the path it's looking for on my C drive, on my local machine. And the name of the folder is transition from ASUS documents. And there are a bunch of documents like you saw, 185 of them. And then what's doing is it's creating the headers for the columns, excuse me, as file name and file path. And then it's looping through the files in that folder, in this folder, in the transition from ASUS folder. It's looping through each of those files and then bringing them, copying them onto Excel spreadsheet. So right now here, this is what you're seeing. So if I, let's say, however many files, whatever the number of files, it is, when I run that, if it changes, if it's less, more, whatever, however many files are there, it's going to be copying them and creating me a list of the files. These kind of things, functionalities come a lot of times, depending on what you're doing, what you're working with. Within Microsoft Office and Excel data analysis kind of environment, it comes super handy. And again, going back to this code here myself, the one that I was showing you, if I was trying to do this, if I was trying to do this myself, I did work with a lot of, these are the examples that actually, which is one of the many, I don't know, hundreds of examples that I can think of, and I just came up with some. These are good representatives of what I've been working with, and then a lot of times, tiny little part of my work wanted me, forced me to do these kinds of things, and that's one of those. That's a good example. I'd be probably spending to do this, to get that done, to find the right structure, the right variables, the right coding structure. There is a whole in this code. When you look at that, in this code block, there is a structure, right? To find that and then kind of find the right example, I'd be spending some time, on Google and trying to find out ways to kind of something similar, so I can kind of manipulate and tweak a little bit to make it work for me, for my particular problem. So instead of spending that kind of time, I knew exactly what I was trying to do, and then I did go ahead and ask that question to ChatGPT, and it did for me, and I got my results. So now, what I was trying to here show with those couple examples or 3 examples I mentioned, it helped me for me to be able to complete my tasks. I think that I would say the key here is, as part of your work, you know exactly what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. You have to, for instance, at this part of your work, okay, you got to create a functionality to do, let's say, like I showed you, I got to find a button, I got to find a macro that basically kind of copies all the files and put them in an Excel spreadsheet. Let's say that is tiny little part of your whole entire work, a kind of project. Let's say it's an Excel automation project, and you're trying to get that done, hopefully in a short amount of time. You don't want to spend a day on it, right? So basically, that's where ChatGPT is definitely coming extremely helpful. And somebody was asking, we were discussing, there was kind of discussion, I remember, would it replace people's jobs? Would it be replacing, I'm a data analyst or data scientist, depending on who you're talking to. I work a lot of different projects. I did work as, contractor. I've been still, I'm currently working as a contractor, and for a lot of different contracts, I had to do similar kind of stuff for different kinds of jobs, projects, different companies, organizations, and when I was working during those projects, I was basically kind of doing something. Actually, the concept was the same. I know what I need to do. I know what Excel needs to do for me, and it's a matter of finding out, the ways to get the VBA, Visual Basic for Applications code, to get Excel do what I'm trying to get done. But it was, I remember spending a lot of time to get the write code, manipulate, build, and get it run, and test it and everything. But here, knowing exactly what you want. Okay, like, hey, there you go. I asked this question using VBA, open Excel file in a directory and copy the contents from a tab on it, and then paste the data to another Excel file in a different directory. That's how I asked the question. Question has to be super clear, concise, clear in all. There should not be any confusion. If you can only do this if you know what you're trying to do, what you're doing. You know what that project is telling you, requesting you, requiring you to do, and in that way, it cannot replace you for your job, because it's you, it's the person, it's the analyst, it's the programmer who's actually understanding the business problem as part of the project, and then start working on it. And this is only a little part of that project. And yes, then here ChatGPT can be super helpful. but it cannot create the entire platform and environment and domain for this job to be completed. That's my argument. That's my discussion. Again, ChatGPT is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. OpenAI, artificial intelligence. Obviously, it is learning, and it's gonna be incredible. It's gonna have, I mean, incredible amount of power. This is amazing. That's what I just want to share with you on the ways that people can utilize and leverage the power of ChatGPT. All right, thank you very much for watching my examples. Have a great day.